If you have a great song, you've never had to do less work to get it heard by millions of people, which is really, really an amazing time to be alive. Unfortunately, they just get not as well compensated for it as they would have in the past. But what's interesting is most people don't do anything to call attention to themselves as it is. While there is a flood, I actually think what's really interesting is that when people do respond to a song, it has more mechanisms to spread fast than we've ever seen before, which is a great thing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the First 100 podcast. This is the podcast where we're going to be exploring the journey of entrepreneurs, business owners, agency leaders, and so many more interesting people as they share with us the strategies, the challenges, and the triumphs that have led them to secure those first 100 customers, first 100 followers, first 100. I'm your host, Daniela, and let's go check this out. And today I'm joined with a very special guest, Jesse Cannon. Hi, Jesse.
How are you?
I'm doing good. We're so excited to have him today. He's an influencer that has worked with us. You know, you have worked with us before, right?
Yes.
In some sponsored content. And now this is a great moment for us to talk a little bit more about your channel. So why don't we start with, your YouTube channel, your influencer journey, what you do, and so that people watching can sort of get an idea of who you are.
Hi there. Yeah, so I, for many years, was a record producer and a manager. I've worked in many, many different positions in the music business. And then almost 5 years ago, I decided to start a YouTube channel since I realized that's what would get my message out to people. And since then, it's been a massive success. And I am lucky that a bunch of people tune in to hear what I have to say about how to promote their music, how to build a fan base that's sustainable, not just get quick views and then not have anyone show up to your shows, and actually build something with infrastructure, since that's what I've done with many bands over the years, is build them a plan to make sure fans stay engaged with them and get excited about them. And I've written 2 books about the music business. And right now I have a new thing called Musformation Labs, where I dissect the artists who are blowing up right now and what they're doing to do that, since everything changes so fast. And I am the author of the newsletter Music Marketing Trends.
Oh, cool. So you have a lot of experience in the music industry specifically then, right?
Yeah, I am actually on my 30th year of being music only has been my job for the entire time, and I've made my living off of it for 30 years.
That's a long time. So did you start by wanting to become a musician yourself, or how did you go into the production side of it?
Yeah, funny thing, I got a 4-track, and back then it was not like now where up until about 2004, if you told somebody you were a record producer, they'd go, ooh, wow, you're fancy. And then I noticed around 2005 that when my girlfriend at the time would tell people that she was dating a record producer, they're like, does he have a home? Is he living in his car? Because it changed. A lot of people had access to the equipment, but for the first almost 10 years I was doing this, it was a very rare thing that anybody was doing, especially in the genres I was doing it in New York City. So once people started hearing my band and hearing that I could do this, I got a lot of jobs very fast, and I was in a great music city. I grew up a few minutes outside of New York City and started going to New York City almost every day when I was about 14. So I got a lot of experience fast, and I started working at one of the top radio stations in America that still exists, WFMU, when I was 16. So I worked there for 10 years, and so I got to meet a lot of the most incredible musicians alive and record them there.
That's very cool, actually. My sister is majoring in music, and she struggled a lot with specifically that. I feel like, and I think that's a really big space where musicians sort of don't know what to do, which is actually the marketing and promoting and production side of things. Because my sister, she's got it all down, right? She can play a bunch of instruments. She's a really good singer. She can like, write really well. But then she's like, I don't know what to do with all of this. Like, where do I put it? How do I make this? Because like it's different than to just listen to someone with their guitar than to actually have someone like, well produced. So I think what you're doing is definitely like a huge part of the music industry that probably people don't think about. It kind of just gets glossed over, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate too that the internet has a flood of people who give advice that's just not very good, and I try to really be a force for making sure that I get the best information. I try to make sure I have other people's voices even on my channel where we debate things we disagree with about so that we can get to better conclusions and people can hear the different methodologies and decide what's best for them. But yeah, I think the nice thing is that we've never been in a better time for you. If you have a great song, you've never had to do less work to get it heard by millions of people, which is really, really an amazing time to be alive. Unfortunately, they just get not as well compensated for it as they would have in the past.
I definitely think there's a lot of like oversaturation, I guess, because it's so easy. I feel like now everybody can come up with their own, music and things of those sorts. So it's maybe also harder to stand out.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is most people don't do anything to call attention to themselves as it is. So while we have this oversaturation, most people put up an Instagram story and then they're on to the next week back to just posting about their Call of Duty game and things like that, and they don't do it. So while there is a flood, I actually think what's really interesting is that when people do respond to a song, it has more mechanisms to spread fast than we've ever seen before, which is a great, great, great thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think TikTok too, right? Like music has really, the way that people listen to music has really changed. Like I feel like the charting songs nowadays are just whatever trending song is going on TikTok. Like sometimes they're not even new songs. It's just they're popular on TikTok for like a month and then they're on the top 100.
Particularly the last couple weeks, this summer in 2024, we've seen charts that are unlike anything we've ever seen, where you'll have an established artist like Taylor Swift and Post Malone in the top 10, but then right next to them are artists that never had a song in the top 2,000 because of TikTok. Like Tommy Richmond just spent a ton of time there. You have Shabuzi with that, and a lot of that is fueled by TikTok and Instagram, and just people really responding to a song when they hear a part of it, which I think is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah, memes too, right? Because I don't know if you're like, I like anime, and there's like a certain show that I watch where they used a certain song by this artist called Ricky Montgomery.
Yeah.
And they used his music for like these memes for this anime. And the anime community made so many memes for this show and this like meme that now like he'll go to concerts and then like people will be cosplaying as characters. And
wow.
He even like posted on his Instagram that he started watching the show because he's like, it's been like years since I released a song and he still just gets notifications from like the memes that they're using. And it's really made his music so popular because he was kind of like an underground artist, And to me, it's like insane, like how social media has just completely changed that. Because I feel like a few years back, that was just not the case at all. I mean, in 2004, I was really, really young, so I don't really remember like the situation. But I definitely don't think that this is how it was.
No,
back in the day.
2004, what a lot of what was rising up then was there was blogs, and then people would put MP3s on those blogs, and then there was a site called the Hype Machine that came a few years later that would chart those songs, and then those songs would often, that would be stuff that would like lift up a group like, let's say, the Killers, who are still doing quite well today. But yeah, that was about the dawn of that era, and then that had continued up until about the MySpace era, and then we got streaming music after that, and then ever since then. But a lot of this has been determined by either Spotify's algorithm or playlists or TikTok strength, and I think that's a much better world for music that we're living in.
Yeah. So how did you like manage to sort of keep up with it? I mean, you've been in the industry for so long, and social media and streaming services have definitely really changed the game. So how did that affect, the way that you were doing your work, or you know, how did you sort of learn that this is like, okay, I have to like do it like this now, or, use these platforms, or I don't know.
I'm lucky. I'm one of those people who kind of can't rest and has to study at all times. So I will get done with a 12-hour workday like yesterday, and I'll take a walk for a second, maybe walk the dog around somewhere, and then I come home. And last night's a great example of this. Is I get home at about 10:30, and I turn on YouTube, and then I look up and it's 3:30 in the morning, and I've been studying and taking notes on different things. I just love researching, being ahead of the curve, and in all honesty, and then I love sharing it. And it's a nice thing to be able to get, I work for a bunch of companies, and I work for a bunch of artists who keep me on payroll to tell them what's changing, what's going on. And I'm very, very, very lucky for that I've been able to do that. And what's nice is it also motivates me to keep doing this. So I don't know if it's always a chicken or the egg thing where I don't know which one came first, but I do have nights like last night, at least twice a week, where it's just like the information I'm learning keeps me so engrossed that I'm like, well, you're going to be a little tired tomorrow because you're so excited about what you're learning.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I mean, I think that's everybody's dream, to just be excited about their job, right? Like what they're doing, to be looking forward to the next thing. And that way it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. In about 2020, I really switched out of music production into doing marketing and podcasts full time. And I've been very lucky that I've always just been paid to learn about my passions and get compensated for it. And I'm very lucky that I have such great clients that I actually get listened to by the world. So it's really, really great. I'm very fortunate.
So how did you decide to transition into social media? Obviously, you were not doing the influencer thing before. Why did you decide to like go that route and start making YouTube videos and all of that?
So when I was young, it was very funny. About 14, 15 years old, I knew I wanted to own a club. I wanted to be a record producer. I wanted to write a book, were three boxes I wanted to tick. So by the time I was 17, I worked in a club. And by the time I was 21, I realized that that's a horrible job that no one should ever want, because you're throwing a party every night and everyone's trashing the place, and it's a lot of stress. Whereas you can be doing much funner things to make money. So I gave up on that one, but I knew I wanted to write a book, and I wrote 2 books that I'm very, very proud of. But then after those 2 books were out, I wanted to be heard, and I became convinced, which I still am, which is if you want to be heard these days, you're not really going to get heard writing a book as well as you are than if you make long-form YouTube videos. The reach I have and the impact my ideas have had is far greater. One of the things people really underestimate about books is, it's really the only format that is considered modern, where a lot of people accumulate it and then never consume it. Books sit on shelves, books sit in Kindles and don't get read. Whereas YouTube videos, if you're making what's compelling, they get watched the second someone hears about them, or if not, they get saved to a watch later and probably gets watched at the right time. And it just became very clear to me that if I'm going to spread my ideas and get into better circles, because one of the other things I've always wanted to do is be around the best creators. One of the things I'm really lucky about is I work with a couple different groups who make some of my favorite music. Before I even start working with them, they've asked me to work with them. And that's a really awesome thing. I work with, I work at some of my day job is at Rolling Stone magazine, which I was reading when I was 11 years old. I'm just really lucky that because I went to social media, doors have opened for me. And I see this with musicians all the time too. I just profiled for Muse Formation Labs RJ Passon, who has a top 20 viral song, and he's working with some of the biggest artists in the world that he loves because people have heard him through going viral on TikTok.
That's really nice. Yeah, I definitely think I've seen so many people who have had so many doors open to them by doing social media. I think the biggest thing is just sort of learning how to do it right. I think also, there's what we see, I think, an influx of people trying to become influencers because of what they see other people have been able to achieve through that. I think that it's a mix of luck as well as skill and charm. It's a little bit of all of that put in. And sort of from that, you can get something going, to get your own platform growing. That's great. But I wanted to hear from you as an influencer. What do you think are the main things that would make a person successful as an influencer in marketing, or, marketing themselves, their own platforms, if they're trying to start out in this new industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I agree with you that, there's weird things that hold a lot of people back. One of the things I recently started in my Discord is we made a place where for $3 a month, people can get comments. I only made a price on it because I wanted it to be people who are really, really interested in engaging with looking at other people's content. And one of the things I believed throughout my life is that there's a combination of a couple of things that hold people back from connecting with an audience, which is one, that you need to learn kind of the parameters that work for most people, or even if you know those parameters, you may know what rules to break after you know the rules. Some people get lucky and just break a rule and it connects with people, but that's not usually what happens. So what I mean by that is, for example, on TikTok, there's certain ways that if you structure, you have 10 sentences you're going to say, if you structure them in a certain way, it's going to get way more views than other things. You learn how to do hooks. You learn where to hide things. You learn to not say a conclusion sentence and chop that sentence off so that it goes right. It basically leaves people so it flips over as fast as possible. So with that too, the other X factor I think for a lot of people is a saying I really subscribe to is that everyone has a note on their back. The world can see, but you can't see it yourself. And sometimes you need to be told that. That's one of the reasons I made that community, is that, for example, I am a very fast talker, as some people may have noticed. I have had to learn to talk a good deal slower. This is me being chill, to be honest with you. I'm sure we've been seeing me sipping on some coffee. I drink 1 cup of coffee a day, and then after that, I am yapping as fast as I go. And to get my message across over and over again, people are like, I can't understand this guy. He talks too fast. And I had to learn, here's a teleprompter speed. Here's a level of enunciation I do. So that was one of the notes on my back I had to learn and I had to acknowledge, and comments give you that. So I think a lot of it is, one, do you learn with the notes on your back? Do you do that? And then the third X factor is, there is so many people saying the same things. Do you learn enough to have insight that people haven't heard before? Most of the people I see getting massive social media followings are not saying the thing. There's 400 guys, I heard this term yesterday, that on the Zinternet, we're discussing the same 5 things about how to hustle and make money and all these things. They say it the exact same way. No one needs to hear it. They've heard it 1,000 times. But then there's about 10 people who can explain it better because they have more insight, they're better studied, and they just see more than other people. And that's who I think gets listened to these days. And you need to develop those skills to know how to say things and explain them effectively to people more so than others.
Yeah, I agree. I think honestly, standing out is definitely a huge thing if you can say something that's different.
Yeah.
I feel like I see so many people giving the same advice, just kind of paraphrasing what the other person already said.
Yep.
And it gets old, right? For you as a viewer, it gets boring because then you're just like, scroll next.
Yep.
I think also just people's attention spans, right? Like people have so much, like I feel like the attention span has gotten, shorter. So it's also just kind of like you need to keep it upbeat, interesting for people to want to be engaged.
Yeah, talking fast can be a gift, and then there's talking too fast. One of the things I tell people all the time too is there's a rhythm to every corner of TikTok, and I'm convinced there's all sorts of different corners. So, and what I mean by a rhythm for that is that in a lot of genres, if you're dancing a little bit more excited to the song than the song actually is, that's going to get better views. Whereas in other genres, like, so a good example is there was this trend for this band Pine Grove, where the dance trend was actually being almost a little behind the beat and sluggish to the song because that was the vibe to it. We need to learn the rhythms that audiences respond to in all sorts of things. It could be dancing, talking, things like all sorts of different paces. And there is too fast, there is too slow, there is inefficient speaking, and that is a lot of it. Another thing I see all the time is people don't take it seriously enough that you need to have 3 points of remembering who someone is. I'm actually not right now in my normal thing, but in my videos where 5 years have worn the same hat, always a band shirt. I have a blue microphone. I have a weird voice. I always have these glasses on. So if you come across me, you're going to go, weird guy, weird voice guy, same hat, same microphone, band shirt, glasses. I know who this guy is.
For my consistency though, right? Because I feel like, that's how you end up associating things. Like when I think of like certain cartoon characters or characters in shows and movies, I think of this one specific attire that I'm always seeing them with. Right? So it makes me sort of relate them.
Yeah, and it's a scientific fact too that people of other races, not even out of races, it's all races, look at other people of other races and aren't as good at seeing their faces. And we just see too many people who look alike. So you have to find little things that can make you stand out. It's one of the things I see all the time with musicians. Let's say they play guitar, putting some stickers, having a different looking guitar, all can be enough to start to give people cues. That's that person. I liked what they did before.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think that's great advice. And it definitely helps you sort of make you unique and specific and, give you a sort of identity outside of just being a random content creator. So I think it's really cool that you have so much experience because I feel like with a lot of influencers that I've spoken with, they're obviously a lot very new to the workforce. They are just starting out. They're a bit on the younger side. And I think there's a lot of insight that you can get from young people. But I feel like from experience also, there's a lot of like really great things that you can learn, which is you've definitely sort of given me a lot of things to think about because you are speaking from someone who has been doing this for a long time, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because yes, I constantly have to consider like, I listen to music mostly by very young people that has come out in the last 6 months. I actually don't really listen to anything that's older than about 18 months on a weekly basis ever. But who makes the most interesting stuff is usually people who are pretty fresh to things. And this is because of many things, but one of the things I think we really have to always grapple with is that like an older person can do more further analysis than a younger person because they've seen more lenses to go through. But a younger person will often be more inspired because what is new to you is exciting and they don't always know the rules that everybody else is shaping through. So they make something different from breaking that rule and doing something different. And it's really about different ways of seeing and and you need to both things are very, very valid.
Yeah, I definitely think they're both very valid and they both provide a different kind of value to something that you are consuming. I mean, there's wisdom in experience and there's also freshness and youth and innocence.
Yeah. it's what keeps me going is hearing young people's ideas.
Yeah. Well, it's been great talking to you. I think it's been very, very interesting to hear everything that you have to say. Before we close off, I wanted to ask, is there anything that you want to talk about your audience with, that you would like to talk to our audience about, your show, anything that you would want to share, any interesting projects that you're working on?
Yeah, if if any of this piqued your interest and you're like, ooh, I'd love to know how musicians are blowing up right now, or I'd love to learn more about promoting my music, Musformation Labs has a whole lot of information. I should say musformationlabs.com has a whole lot of information on what I do, and basically gives you different routes that you can get education through that start off as free. I have other paid things, and you're able to basically choose your own adventure there depending on where you are in your education and where you are in your budget. And yeah, that's really what I do. But I appreciate being on. I know Penji's doing really, really cool things, and a lot of people I introduced to you guys, a lot of people were really psyched on what you're doing. So it's really a pleasure to be a part of this.
It's been a pleasure to have you as well, Jesse. So if you guys are interested, you can subscribe to their channel. You can also go check out their website. It's been great, guys, and we'll talk to you in the next one.